All aboard! This week, myself and Shane are digging into Wes Anderson's The Darjeeling Limited, starring Owen Wilson, Adrien Brody, and Jason Schwartzman. This is Boy Party. Hello everybody, welcome to Boy Party, the podcast about movies where two or three major stars share the screen and battle it out for top billing, screen time, the fatter paycheck, and the most acclaim. Every week we discuss movies that give audiences three for the price of one on Legends of the Silver Screen, delving into dueling star personas, a bit of behind-the-scenes drama, and the ultimate quest for box office Oscars and cinematic dominance. And don't worry, we discuss actors of all genders from week to week because girls are invited to the Boy Party, and gender is a construct anyway. I'm Lucian, and I'm joined by my brother. He's traveling across India with me. We're getting into all sorts of scrapes. We're getting into all sorts of pickles. And we are not getting motion sickness at all because for some reason, I don't get motion sickness in the train. It's Shane.
Good evening.
Trains. What are your thoughts?
We also don't get motion sickness because we're on an array of Indian medicines.
An array of all sorts of Indian medicines that we picked up on.
And they work.
Yes.
We recommend.
We were talking about our relative interests in visiting India while watching this film. A pretty reasonable thing to bring up while watching this film. I'm not sure this film makes the best pitch for India as like an accessible tourist destination, but it certainly makes it seem full of like mystery and wonder. I'm very interested in going to India.
Yeah.
I don't think you are as much.
You've convinced me, but I think my lack of initial interest is based on a complete lack of knowledge of any of like the structure or layouts of any of the cities.
Yes,
where I think if I
that,
picture any American city, even South American cities, I can
picture
picture landmarks.
The skyline, yeah.
I can picture the skyline, I can picture landmarks, and that kind of gives me a sense of, if I got there, I'd know where I was.
I think what Western media has convinced us of is that our only image of Indian cities is
complete sprawling
crowds, clusters,
Taj Mahal,
with people hanging out
surrounded by slums,
and just thousands and thousands upon thousands of people crowded together.
No,
you know?
There are a lot of people in India.
There are a lot of people in India, but there's a lot of people
everywhere,
in China, and there's a lot of people in the United States, and you know people go there all the time. What is the most exotic Eastern nation you have actively considered visiting? China?
Yeah, I'd go to China.
Yeah, you've talked about China more than you've talked about India.
That's because I noticed there's a direct flight from Dublin to China recently.
Yeah, I mean, it's
450 euro return. I think it's
much easier to get to than to get to.
And then the reasoning I was explained to why this is a viable air route is because China is allowed to fly through Russian airspace.
Right.
So you can fly direct and don't have to stop in the Middle East.
Basically the only flight you can leave.
It's with
Dublin,
like China Air.
Take you over India or take you over Russia. Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. I'm not opposed to someday going to China. I'm curious about it, but India would seem far more like a fun trip to me of like good food, good music, nice people, beautiful landscapes and beautiful buildings.
Yeah. And I think they'd have a good relationship with us given our former Taoiseach is
I forgot about that. Yeah, is half Indian.
Indian, yeah. And
I do think, like, I mean, the Indian government I don't think are the best people right now. I think maybe some very right wing people involved.
I don't hear a lot about like Indian politics either.
Yeah, but you hear Modi's name being bandied about as like a very right wing, terrible, racist, I think, leader who creates a lot of discriminatory policies in India.
As far as I'm aware, they're very much on the side of Israel.
Yeah, I think so. So there's complications there, but I would say that like generally Indian and Irish communities have a positive relationship, and Indian people I know in Ireland love it here and have had a good experience, hopefully. And
I'm not aware of Irish people avoiding India as a destination.
No, not at all. I mean, British people love India, but for more post-colonial reasons. Those Best Exotic Marigold movies, which I really like and have great actors in them, are very like old English doddery people going back to visit a nation that was not too long ago part of India.
Part of England.
Part of England, I mean. And there is an interesting post-colonial thing in those movies. And also, like...
Do you get a sense of that out of these?
Out of this film, Darjeeling Limited?
Sorry.
I don't think so, because I think this is just a super American set of characters and an American filmmaker. So it's not part of the British India thing. But it is, you're right. I mean, it is very much a white... what is the term for a movie that is about?
It's not like whitewashed.
But a white person going to explore an exotic culture for their own gain. Eat, Pray, Love is how people have compared this. Hipster Eat, Pray, Love. It's a movie where a foreign culture.
I guess you just call it tourism.
Yeah. I guess it's like tourist cultural fetishization a bit. Like, it's white people like us, realistically,
very much
going to India to scour their culture and people for personal fulfillment and spiritual.
Yeah, we would have the benefit of going to a country and cherry picking the nice things they have to kind of experience without dealing with the wider cultural and like class and monetary impact.
Do people do that with Ireland? I suppose. I guess the American relationship with Ireland of Irish Americans coming over, doing the whole Guinness Storehouse, Temple Bar, Cliffs of Moher
similar
thing.
to English people in India.
Yeah, maybe, and then completely ignoring the whole. Like, well, not there is no one issue in Ireland that they're ignoring, but just, they're not participating.
Ireland is a developed enough country that you can kind of get away with it.
Yeah, but Americans who come to Ireland, they do the diddly idly stuff, and they're not exactly engaging with the complexities that exist in Irish society, albeit that a class divide or other things. There is a picture perfect version of Ireland you see in especially any American films where they come to Ireland as a novelty destination, like Irish Wish, Leap Year, Wild Mountain Thyme. In these films you're getting the fields, the farmers, the crack, the Guinness, and you never get any sense of like the Irish society that would be depicted in Irish films.
Yeah, like I can't remember the last time an Irish person has said the words Blarney Stone.
Yeah, but like the Banshees of Inisherin is an interesting middle ground where that's a film made by an English guy who likes to pretend he's Irish, and that's a film that's like exposing Irish people's issues with trust and communication and all the divides of the Civil War and all this, and like that to me is like a very diddly eye Irish movie about donkeys and pubs and the countryside.
It is, but it's also like, again, Americans were confused. They thought it was they didn't realize it was a period piece.
No,
they didn't realize
they didn't realize it was a period piece. Yeah.
Well, very specific people. We're not going to say everyone.
Sure. But if you showed an Irish American person who was coming over to Ireland to do the Guinness-y bullshit, if you showed them an modern Irish film that's interested in Irish society in a more complex way, like, a Frank Berry film or even some of the Jim Sheridan movies, they would probably be kind of like, well, this isn't what I signed up for. I want the fields and the donkeys, and like Banshees kind of delivers on the fields and the donkeys, even if it's like a little bit deeper than that.
Like, to be fair, when I visit the US, I want to experience coming to America as Eddie Murphy did.
Yeah, exactly. Well done, good job. So in terms of train movies, Darjeeling Limited, where does it rank? We've got The Polar Express, we've got Bullet Train, Unstoppable, Girl on the Train, Train Spotting, Murder on the Orient Express, Source Code, Taking of Pelham 123.
Did you say Unstoppable?
I did. The 1517 to Paris, Train to Busan. Like, it's
The Commuter.
The Commuter, Thomas and the Magic Railroad, The Railway Children, The Railway Children Remake, The Railway Children Return. Before Sunrise.
Probably the Buster Keaton one where he's on the train.
Yeah, the General. The Railway Man. What's the one with Under Siege 2, Dark, whatever, with Steven Seagal?
Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning.
Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning.
Mission Impossible.
Yes, the Great Train Robbery. It is hard to find a vehicular setting for a movie that is interesting and exciting. I think trains, they do a good job, generally.
I think trains... Yeah, I think we had this discussion when I watched The Commuter on RT a couple of weeks ago. Trains are excellent because they're
on ground level.
They're ground level.
So you can do fun stuff out the windows, right? A plane, there's nothing out the window except clouds. Stuff out the window.
It gives you very claustrophobic setting.
Yes.
But
there's room to walk around.
But there's outs.
Yes.
There's outs given their stops.
Yes. And you can kind of clamber up on the roof if you are doing that. You can
get
stuff.
A bit of outside stuff, but like it's a very easy way to like dip people in and out.
Yes.
Like,
so
okay,
you were
you're
saying
completely
in the
gone.
Commuter, every time, and Bullet Train does this too.
Yeah.
Every time the train stops and starts, you have an opportunity to introduce a new character.
Yeah, like the first 20 minutes, Jonathan Banks is on the train.
Yeah.
Florence Pugh shows up for a kind of a middle act. Then Patrick Wilson shows up at the end.
I think in Bullet Train it's similar, where like different assassins are getting on at different points to fight Brad Pitt and
like being stuck on a train and it is stopping and there's kind of an option to get out but you can't is very frustrating.
Yes and it creates
it's constantly teasing you with like, okay, you can
it's equivalent of if you're on the train and you are in our low stakes lives and you have like a very annoying person sitting near you, there is an opportunity that person might get off at any stop.
It also allows you to create different settings because different carriages in films are often kind of depicted as completely different sets.
Yes. You can also have different carriages on a train that look and feel completely
yes,
unique.
that's kind of what I was
so like in Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning, you have the train goes lopsided basically and is falling over a cliff at the end, and there is a carriage with the kitchen, which has all of these like dangerous kitchen appliances. You have a carriage with a grand piano that's all fancy.
The dining room, you have all the different various pieces.
You can create all these separate little pockets within the train. Snowpiercer, is the Bong Joon-ho film where there is the entire human race lives on a train. The rich people are up the front and the poor people are down the back. And if you walk from one end of the train to the other, you have the entire class system laid out for you in perfect sequence. So
trains also give you the opportunity to like mess with the tracks up ahead.
Yes.
Whereas like on an airplane, you can't really. There's no like you can't. Oh well, I guess there's a storm.
The
up
most
ahead,
you
but that's
can
not
squeeze out of an airplane is what like Hijack does, where you have first class and then you have the economy, and they can look different to each other. You have to introduce other planes. You have to have planes flying alongside the plane.
It's also difficult to have something happening on a plane and everyone isn't aware of it immediately.
Yeah. The best you can get away with is in a movie like Red Eye, where you have two people sitting beside each other and one of the people is whispering, "I'm gonna fucking kill everyone."
Or even Flight Plan, it's on a huge plane. There's multiple layers.
In nonstop, Liam's getting texts from the assassin or the terrorist or whatever, and Hijack's similar substance. But anyway. So trains.
None of that happens.
None of that happens in this movie.
No.
This is Wes Anderson. We're like 15 minutes into this episode. Darjeeling Limited is a Wes Anderson film from 2007. First Wes Anderson film we've covered on this podcast. Probably the most boy party movie he has done. Although I would say a great number of his films are like ensemble pieces with multiple stars. But in terms of having sort of
these three guys are on screen all the
entire time. It is about these three, their relationship as brothers and their banter and their camaraderie as performers. And it's a lot of fun. They are three of Wes's most reliable faces and collaborators. And they're not conventional movie stars necessarily. In 2007, the billing on the poster is Owen Wilson, Adrien Brody, and Jason Schwartzman.
Would that stand today? Would Adrien Brody be bummed?
I don't know. Adrien Brody has an Oscar.
Yeah.
Owen Wilson has no Oscar nominations. Jason Schwartzman has no Oscar nominations. So to me, Adrien Brody should be getting first billing by default, just by my kind of like cynical criteria. But Owen Wilson in 2007 is objectively a much bigger movie star.
Absolutely.
And has always been. And that has never ceased to be the case. We'll dig into those three in just a moment, but in terms of the Wes Anderson of it all, this is in a weird period for Wes Anderson where he has been accepted by Hollywood, mainstream. The Royal Tenenbaums kind of pushed him over the edge after Bottle Rocket and Rushmore were sort of cult hits. The Royal Tenenbaums is just like a hit. It has a couple of big names in it. Everybody loves it. It is one of his best movies. We've done a whole podcast about it over on Adam and Ben. So if you go over to that feed, you can listen to our Royal Tenenbaums episode with Lauren Conway. It's a lot of fun. 2004, he makes The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou, which I don't believe you've seen.
Nope.
That and this are definitely like two movies I struggle to love and would love to have a contrarian take on and be like, oh, you know what's great is Life Aquatic and Darjeeling. And I just can't love either of these films. I would say The Life Aquatic is the more charming of the two because it's all set at sea. And that's fun. It has a big cast with people like Cate Blanchett, Willem Dafoe, Jeff Goldblum, Michael Gambon are all just kind of hanging around.
Like, I guess when you have kind of a set style to your filmmaking, a lot of the time, all your films will kind of be attempting to achieve the same thing. Yes. So it's easier to kind of identify the good ones.
Yes, I think so. But it's funny that he back to back does, what if I apply my shtick to underwater?
Yeah.
And what if I apply my shtick to a train in India?
Yeah.
I feel like those are two very self-conscious attempts by him to do kind of like
compartmentalize it a little bit.
Yeah, or like do like a very different new setting for each one of his films of like, this is my train movie, this is my water movie.
Like what's Rushmore?
Well, Rushmore is a very different era for him. Okay. I think that's him. Bottle Rocket and Rushmore are him as a graduate film student with bursting with ideas, trying to tell stories about youth.
Yeah.
And now he's into his 30s and he's making these sort of like, I have a lot of money and big stars want to work with me. What can I do with that? And then I think his next era after this is as this like proper, ambitious, painterly artist who wants to put everything in the right place, and then he wants to create this like almost like little opera of miniatures, and then just have the camera kind of move through in sequence and capture all of this clockwork stuff that he has working perfectly.
Yeah, he wants to build it first, then record it after.
Yeah. And I think that works better for him, and that Mr. Fox, Moonrise Kingdom, and Grand Budapest is his best run of 3 films, and is like an incredibly successful amalgamation of his interest in human connection and the stuff he does with his characters, which I think is phenomenal. And I despise people's claim that he is not an emotionally connected filmmaker, because it's idiotic, and people who say that haven't seen Moonrise Kingdom or Fantastic Mr. Fox, which are 2 really moving films, and many of the others. But then that's his 3rd phase. And then I would say his 4th phase, which is French Dispatch, Asteroid City, and I don't really know if the Netflix stuff counts here, is harder for me to engage with, which is kind of similar to this movie, which is like very interested in grief and cynicism, and how cynicism can kind of like weave its way into the artist's dreams and stuff, and
like it's kind of reflective period of the films he's made previously. Like they're kind of based around
the response.
Either like kind of production of magazines, production of art, production of a play in Asteroid City.
And the French Dispatch, it gets away with it because it's structured like every one of those stories gets out while it's still ahead, right? Like none of them drag on long enough to become uninteresting, in my opinion. Although when I watched it with you went honk shoo for a lot of that.
Again, a lot of the time, I can watch a lot of slop. I think if I'm going to fall asleep during a film, it's predetermined.
Sure.
The film isn't really But
Wes Anderson films are kind of prone to be sleepy because they're on, the volume doesn't really go up and down that much.
It doesn't.
Yeah.
They're
steady, like
they're steady. They kind of tick by like a metronome. They're like
and the music is often like literally ding 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 ding, like it's nursery rhyme.
Yeah, these things like flow through different. It's like walking through a museum looking at paintings. Like you can get a bit snoozy.
Yeah. But Schwartzman is, of course, the lead of Rushmore. He's one of the 3 leads of this. And then ultimately in 2023, Wes brings him back to be the lead of Asteroid City. I didn't love Asteroid City, and I don't think you did either. I thought Schwartzman was part of the reason I didn't love it. I found his performance in that kind of hard to like log into. I don't know.
It's a bit flat.
He's just like a guy who sad his wife died, and it doesn't really get any deeper than that.
Like I might like Asteroid City more if I'd seen the full back catalogue of Wes Anderson films and I kind of have the context.
I don't know if you would. I have, and I didn't love it. But my parents loved it. It was the first one they've loved since Moonrise Kingdom. Like there's a pocket of people who think Asteroid City is like secret best Wes Anderson film. But there is for every single one of these. Maybe with the exception of the Darjeeling Limited, which is interesting that this is.
Was this not an argument we made 10 minutes ago that there's not an argument? Like the good ones are fairly clear.
Well, you said that. I didn't agree with you.
Oh, you didn't.
I think that there is a fan base that claims that every single one of Wes Anderson's films is his best film.
Sure.
And the only one maybe that you won't hear as loudly that is this one, and then Isle of Dogs, which is like barely a movie. But there's definitely an Asteroid City hive.
Very much so.
Darjeeling Limited, I think anything that would make somebody claim it's his best movie is just slightly undercut by like it's just so flimsy, and like even an hour in it gets distracted for 15 minutes with a flashback that is played like entirely for laughs without any emotional elements.
I think the flashback would have worked a lot better if it was just a hard cut to a different
or if it was
film.
Just the first 15 minutes of the film and it was told in chronological order. I don't know.
Yeah.
But he wants to start off in India.
Like, I think the India shift to New York is, like, very fun and cool.
Yes. Oh, it is.
It's a very harsh kind of aesthetic change.
It's good, because it's the first time the color gets stripped from the... Yeah. And you realize that the Indian stuff is very dreamy.
Yeah.
So, in this film, Brody, Schwartzman, and Wilson play Francis, Peter, and Jack, 3 brothers who travel to India. They haven't seen each other since their father's funeral a year earlier. Francis has had a motorcycle accident. That's Owen Wilson. So he has like bandages all over his head. Mm-hmm. And they want to go on a journey of spiritual self-discovery. And he's also looking for their mother, who they haven't seen in years. She ultimately shows up, played by the great Angelica Houston, who I was in a restaurant with once for 10 minutes. Didn't go within 5 meters of her, though. And there's this assistant character, Brendan, played by Wally Wolodarski, who's just hanging out with them, and he's bald, and they make jokes about how bald he is, and then he kind of disappears. It's fun.
In this film?
Yeah. The bald guy.
The bald guy?
The guy who looks like Patrick Willems. They go, "Why are you so bald?" We talked about the bald guy.
I don't remember this character at all.
We made jokes about him while we were watching it.
Did we?
Okay, temporary.
Does he work on the train?
No, well, yeah, he's on the train with them. He's the assistant.
Oh.
He pops his head in and bickers with them.
I do not remember this.
You have selective amnesia.
I think so.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Amara Karan is in this movie, Indian English actress who plays a love interest for Schwartzman. She's in a few other things I've seen. And then the great late Irfan Khan shows up after they basically try and rescue a drowning boy from the river and fail, and he dies, and in a very like stark moment of kind of like mortal stuff in this film, and they bring the boy's dead body back to his father, and Irfan Khan plays his father.
I think the film up to that point is kind of seemingly, maybe by style reasons, it feels low stakes.
Yeah.
And then you have this child die,
and suddenly it all ramps up.
It does, but you're kind of confused how to feel about it, because everything is kind of trivialized as, we're going to see our mother, she's in India, which is kind of silly inherently. We're doing these silly painkillers. It's I'm having a relationship with the woman on the train, and then a child dies, and are we supposed to perceive that in kind of the same kind of lighthearted,
I don't know,
magical sense that everything else is?
I
found it a bit jarring.
I found a lot of things in this film jarring, and I didn't find it to be like, I haven't seen it in probably 13 years or something, and I remember not liking it very much when I watched it as a child, and I assumed it was going to be one of these ones I returned to now and was like, oh my god, maturity has given me such perspective. Now I understand what Wes Anderson's doing with this dark and morbid film, and I'm just like, I don't think it really works. That's okay. There's a reason why it's not remembered as fondly. That's fine. There is a prequel short film that he put out with Jason Schwartzman and Natalie Portman that is 13 minutes long, called Hotel Chevalier, where Schwartzman and Portman are lovers in a Paris hotel room, and it was shown at Venice and released on the iTunes store, and it is Schwartzman's character from this movie, basically just before the events of this movie take place. Is that by default, does that make Schwartzman's character the lead? I don't think so that anyone's the lead of this. That's fine.
I feel like Owen Wilson's initially presented as the
He is. He's got a bit more going on. He's in the middle of the poster. He's first build. We can call him the lead.
He's the one who organized the trip, kind of, I guess. I don't know.
True. You want to guess what Owen Wilson's total box office haul is?
Oh,
I can tell you it's bigger than the other boys.
We'll go 7.2.
We got a 7.8.
Okay.
Close enough.
Yeah.
$7.8 billion for Owen Wilson's films. This is a major box office star, but folks, he's not really the draw on most of these. Night at the Museum, Cars and Cars 2 and Cars 3, obviously, where he plays Lightning McQueen.
Yeah.
Is Lightning McQueen his most iconic role? I think it might be.
Marley and Me.
Oh, is that an iconic role? No one even knows his name in that.
No.
If you have to ask people to name a character...
Sure, but if you ask kids who play Lightning McQueen... The brand
he's more famous than Owen Wilson.
I honestly,
I feel like people our age, if you ask them to name one Owen Wilson character, the only one they're going to be able to come up with is Lightning McQueen.
You think so?
Everyone in their 20s knows that Owen Wilson plays Lightning McQueen because of Mater. That's so famous. Like, that has become a big meme where Owen Wilson's like number one association with young people now is like,
it's
wow, Mater.
Meet the Fockers.
Oh, for sure. No one knows his character's name. And that, do you? We did a podcast about it.
Is that the defining characteristic of iconic character?
I think wearing a cowboy hat and being annoying and trying to sleep with your friend's wife is kind of the vibe, because he does the same thing in Tenenbaums and the Fockers movies. He's playing a very similar role.
Like Hansel and Zoolander is probably up there.
Oh yeah, Hansel and Zoolander. You're right. People would be able to name Hansel. You're right. Good, you got me there. People, I think. It's fine. It's still recording. Okay. I think Owen Wilson's, his most kind of identifiable character type is friend who will fuck you over if he sees an opportunity to steal your wife from you and wears annoying hats.
Yeah, I haven't really seen his kind of rom-commy stuff, to be honest. Like,
none of it's any good.
Like, is any? But like, what's up the?
So I'll tell you what else is up the top. I mean, these are all ensembles. Yeah. Armageddon, the Fockers movies, the museum movies. Then the biggest film in which he's first billed is Wonder, about the deformed child with Julia Roberts and Tremblay. Wedding Crashers, then $200 million.
Oh, the Vince Vaughn
So that's
stuff.
a big role. The Vince Vaughn, that and Intern. Marley and Me, huge hit. Marley and Me made $250 million at the box office. That is an insanely big hit. A very bad film that I really liked when it came out. I sobbed multiple times watching that film. It is the most manipulative, sickly shit ever. It is such an outrageous, like, white people problems fucking tearjerker movie. I don't know. Have you seen it recently?
I haven't seen it at all.
I have a lot of contempt for Marley and Me.
I have a dog that I like, so you might
be moved by it. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff in it, which is Owen Wilson being able to connect with this dog more than he can with any other of his like male friends, and being like, it's you and me, pal. It's us against the world. That I think you might be moved by, but like it's so manipulative. There's a good use of Lucky Man by The Verve in that movie. I don't know. Yeah. Starsky and Hutch, Grand Budapest, Midnight in Paris. Did he get an Oscar nomination for Midnight in Paris that I'm forgetting about? I don't think he did.
This is the Woody Allen picture.
Yeah. No, he didn't. Did he? Oh, my days. No, never mind. Sorry. He has an Oscar nomination for Best Screenplay for The Royal Tenenbaums, which he co-wrote with Wes Anderson.
Okay.
There you go. Yeah. Okay, he didn't get nominated for Midnight in Paris.
Yeah.
He did get nominated for a Golden Globe for Midnight in Paris, and let's see who he was nominated against. So he lost that award.
Would that go for drama now or for...
that would have been for comedy, for sure. That is a comedy. So he was nominated. It's a great category. Oh, this is wonderful. Okay. He loses.
2012.
This is the films of 2011. He loses to the eventual Oscar winner, Jean Dujardin, for The Artist, one of the greatest performances in film history, obviously. I'm being ridiculous here, being sarcastic. Also nominated, Ryan Gosling, Crazy Stupid Love.
Sure.
Ryan Gosling was also nominated for drama that year for The Ides of March. Clooney's up for The Descendants in drama. I would say that The Descendants is as much of a comedy as Midnight in Paris. Anyway, Brendan Gleeson in The Guard.
That got international recognition.
Yeah.
Really?
And
okay.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt in 50-50. That's a good category.
Huh.
That's a good category. Owen Wilson is really good in Midnight in Paris, and I'm kind of frustrated that he didn't have a more longer Woody Allen stint, because he worked well in that context.
Sure.
He is also in You, Me, and Dupree. Freebirds. He voices one of the turkeys.
Is Dupree also a dog?
No, Dupree is he the silly guy, or is Matt Dillon?
I think he's the silly guy. Of course he is.
It's Matt Dillon, Kate Hudson, and him. Yeah.
He plays the de facto dog. And
yes. Hall Pass. I've always been tempted to watch Hall Pass.
Hall Pass is one of them
Brothers,
smutty looking ones I used to see in Extra Vision,
Yeah.
like when you go to pick up a video.
I'll describe to you from memory the DVD cover of Hall Pass. It's him and Ed Helms, and they're holding their Hall Pass.
Yeah.
And then there is a woman walking away, and her behind is covered with a thing that says "Unrated Edition."
Yes,
that's the poster.
Are they like standing between her legs, like in the distance?
Possibly.
So they're small.
Yeah. That is a smutty film, as you said. He's in the he's in Shanghai Noon and Shanghai Nights. Those are pretty good star vehicles for him. Those are good boy party movies. Him and Jackie Chan. He's in I Spy. Drillbit Taylor is a really bad film.
I have seen several times. It's a
times.
big like film for.
Oh, it's not good.
RT.
Yeah, that's rough. That's like the worst Owen Wilson movie.
It is, but it's like a completely. It's a weird like. Oh, they met Superbad. Let's give him a couple of kids that look like the kids from Superbad.
Yeah. He's in the most expensive film ever made, How Do You Know? He's in Marry Me. That was more recent. That was only 2 years ago. With Jennifer Lopez. Yeah, I watched Marry Me when I had my toothache, so I'll forever have contempt for that film.
Yeah.
He was in a movie called No Escape, where I think with Pierce Brosnan, where he's like a guy who gets stuck in an Asian political uprising, and they have to escape from rebels attacking the city. Him and Pierce Brosnan.
Okay.
Weird. He'll often just dive into being an action star for a year or two. And then, like, most recently, his biggest success of the last 5 or 6 years is that he is in Marvel now, and he plays the sidekick on the Loki show on Disney+. He is the second lead of that show with Tom Hiddleston, and he plays like an agent of the TSA, that are in Deadpool, and he's got a mustache, and he wears a nice tan suit, and he carries around a briefcase, and that's his role. He's become like a,
I feel like that kind of role in a Marvel thing is like actually more respectable, because it's like
perhaps
you're nearly too big to cast as a silly alien.
Yeah, I know.
But you're also kind of beyond it, where we're going to cast you as a lead.
Letting you play a human being is a sign of respect in
I think
Marvel
so.
world.
Yeah,
like Matthew McFadden in that movie is the same.
Robert Redford.
Yeah,
right?
like if you're being allowed to play a guy in an office in Marvel, it means that they respect you enough not to bury you under makeup like they would with Ben Mendelsohn or Lee Pace or whoever.
Yeah.
He's also the second lead in Inherent Vice, which is a weird role for him. That like Paul Thomas Anderson identifies he wants to use Owen Wilson, but in kind of a forgettable role. And then he just did shit like Masterminds, Father Figures, The Big Year. Like he's got kind of a semi-reliable gig as like guy who gets offered comedies that probably people like Ben Stiller turn down, and he's sort of next down the list.
Yeah.
I don't think he's a big box office draw anymore. I think TV is exactly where he belongs. But there is great public goodwill for him. He's had a difficult time. He's obviously very famously struggled with mental health issues, and unfortunately how public that has been, I think. He's always going to be one step ahead of his poor brother, who's kind of like always out in the wilderness making a lot of rubbish and showing up in the Goldfinch for 5 minutes and screaming at the top of his lungs and stuff. So like, you know, as long as he's getting more work than Luke is, I think he's probably somewhat content that his career is functional.
Sure. Who's more likely to win an Oscar, Luke Wilson or Owen Wilson at this point?
I don't think Luke Wilson has even got the goodwill to win an Oscar. I think Luke Wilson has like one performance that people love in Tenenbaums, and that's kind of the extent of it. I think Owen Wilson has a more broad like career respectability around him.
Sure.
Are
either of them trying?
No, not really.
No, okay.
I don't think so.
That's
but
kinda,
Luke probably tries
like,
harder is the thing, because Luke's in Horizon and he's good in it, and I'm much happier to see Luke show up in something than Owen, because I think he's just got like there's this higher ceiling on how much he can surprise me.
Yeah.
What I will say is about if you'd asked me a month ago before we decided to do this movie on the podcast, if you asked me a month ago who were the three guys in the Darjeeling Limited, I would have guessed that one of them was Luke Wilson. I wouldn't have been able to tell you which one, but I would have said, oh, I don't know. I would have maybe guessed Luke Wilson, Adrien Brody, and Jason Schwartzman, and forgotten about Owen entirely.
I think in my head, Luke Wilson is the most interchangeable with Jason Schwartzman. You could have told me Luke Wilson's the lead of Asteroid City, and I'd be like, yeah, I think they have a similar shaped head.
I think on this poster, I would have mixed up Brody for Luke Wilson.
Oh, I'm going to swing around now and look at the poster.
Because I just think the dark hair and the glasses.
Yeah, he's like using a Brody hair.
I was remembering this poster in my head with Luke Wilson on the left. Like, Adrien Brody, an Academy Award winner, Best Actor, the youngest man to ever win the Best Actor Oscar.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Best Actor winners by
what was he, like
age.
28?
I'll tell you right now. We did our Best Actor draft recently, folks. Yeah. You can listen to that episode. We talk about Adrien Brody, and we talk about how he is back, almost. So the youngest winner of Best Actor ever was actually not Adrien Brody. It was Timothy Hutton, who was Timothy Hutton won Best Supporting. Excuse me. Why is there no like clear answer on here? This is so irritating. Best Actor in a Leading Role. Here we go. The youngest winner is. Why did they make this so hard? Oldest winners is all sorted for us. Youngest winner, number 1, Adrien Brody, 29 years, 343 days when he won for The Pianist.
Snuck in there under 30.
Who would he have lost now that year? Or who did he beat? Sorry. Nicolas Cage, Adaptation, Michael Caine, The Quiet American, Daniel Day-Lewis, Gangs of New York, Jack Nicholson, About Schmidt. I would say deserved.
Yeah.
I love Cage and Adaptation, but he had his Oscar. So we watched The Pianist last week for the first time. Mm-hmm. I thought he was fantastic in it. Yeah. I was expecting it to be a very Oscar bait, over the top. I'm suffering, I'm starving my body, like the shit you'd expect from a Sean Penn or a Christian Bale.
But it's not at all. Very quiet.
It's very quiet, and he's quiet but captivating, and like he only really takes over the movie in the second half. I feel like for the first half of the movie, he lets the family unit around him have equal control of the narrative. He doesn't jump in and be, I know you missed a bit at the start, but he's not like, I'm the star of the movie from minute one. He lets himself be the adult son of the family.
He's kind of there just to facilitate where the camera is meant to be.
Yeah, but then when he gets trapped in the attic towards the end, and it is a very much like a survival story, and his beard grows out and he's all skinny and starving. I think that he did that in a way that was incredibly respectable and not over the top and not melodramatic and was so much better than the job that someone of a Sean Penn ilk would have done. And very, very admirable, and a really good performance.
Like his eyes are the most stunning thing in that. Where like they're so incredibly red, and like I don't know if he's into his method acting at all.
He might be.
Probably not. I feel like if you're into method acting, you try and get more out of that performance.
Maybe.
But no, he looked like a completely destroyed person in it, but in a very soft, helpless way.
There's a struggle for 5 years or so after he wins that Oscar of, okay, how do we make this guy into a movie star?
Yeah.
He's won the Oscar for Best Actor. He now has to be the new guy. So he shows up in M. Night's The Village with Joaquin Phoenix, who we recently discussed. And in the movie The Village, the name of his character is Noah Percy, but he plays basically Simple Jack from the Ben Stiller fake trailer. He plays a mentally disabled individual who kind of just like walks around, staring into space. He at one point jumps out and scares Bryce Dallas Howard. She thinks he's one of the monsters, but it's actually just Adrien Brody, like who's dressed up in an outfit and has gone running around in the woods to play. It's a very upsetting bit of casting to see that as the man who just won an Oscar in his next role.
Has anyone like successfully played a?
Yes, one person has ever successfully done that.
Russell Crowe.
Peter Sellers in Being There. I like to watch TV, and he ends up fucking what's the character's name? Chauncey Gardner.
Yeah.
He's this like simpleton gardener, and he ends up becoming like a U.S. senator because his like straightforward approach to communication convinces people that he's a phenomenal politician.
Yeah.
Great performance, great movie. I think that's the one time it's ever worked. Adrien Brody in The Village is not that. He follows up The Village with roles in this movie, The Jacket, which is like a super scary movie that my parents described to me when I was very young, and they were like, he's trapped in a straitjacket and they do experiments on him, and I was like, well, that sounds like the scariest thing ever.
Sounds like the thing he'd be in.
The poster is Terror, has a new name, The Jacket. I'm not watching The Jacket. Then he's in this is a real like, all right, well, what are we going to put this guy in? Peter Jackson's King Kong has 3 names above the title, and those are Naomi Watts, Jack Black, and Adrien Brody. What a fun trio of stars. It's fun. So in that movie, he plays like a screenwriter of the new Monkey movie, and they're going out to the island, to Skull Island. So Jack Black is the director, Adrien Brody's the screenwriter. Yeah. It is lucky for Adrien Brody that 3 years after his Oscar win, the biggest director of the time decided to make a movie where one of the male leads was a 1930s screenwriter.
Yes.
Because only then would Adrien Brody have gotten a role in a film with that big of a budget and probably the salary that he was able to get.
It was tough going back in the early 2000s.
Really,
when you won an Oscar. Like there was absolutely
nothing.
It earned you very low.
Nowadays, you can get your Marvel role if you choose to. Yeah. But there was none of that back then.
You can cash in on that if you feel like.
Yeah, you needed a King Kong back then. Then he's in this movie Hollywoodland, which is like a noir thing in old-timey Hollywood.
Yeah.
Then he's in this, The Darjeeling Limited. He shows up then in Rian Johnson's Brothers Bloom with Mark Ruffalo, which is like kind of like a comedy.
Is this his first Wes Anderson
appearance? It is indeed.
Yeah.
Then he's in Cadillac Records with Beyonce, which is a weird one. Him and Beyonce on the poster. Then he's in this horror movie called Splice, and this is the point at which you're like, they're not even putting him on the poster. And then he's in Predators, and now his name is no longer on the poster. You got movies like Wrecked, Detachment. He plays Dali in Midnight in Paris. I think Woody Allen should have probably made more use of him. And at this point, he starts to just do a bit of TV. He shows up in a miniseries on the History Channel about Houdini. Catch him or he'll go Houdini. Then he's in like literally not a single movie I've heard of that wasn't directed by Wes Anderson from 2014 until 2020.
He has got a good magician face.
He does have a good magician face. He's in Blonde as Arthur Miller. Did you know he was in Blonde? Because they did not advertise that fact. He's in Ghosted as a character called Levesque. Like literally all he makes is Wes Anderson movies, made up nonsense and TV. He's in Winning Time as Pat Riley. He was in 2 episodes of Poker Face with Natasha Lyonne. He was in Peaky Blinders for 6 episodes. And he was in 1 episode. No, he wasn't. He was in 2 episodes of Succession. He was in the episode where they meet him, and then he shows up at the funeral as well. Is there a shareholder meeting or something? I think he's definitely at Logan's funeral. There's a shareholder meeting.
They meet him at his house first, and I think they meet him in a second.
There is a second episode he pops up. He's great in that episode of Succession. He doesn't really have a lot to do, but he's a fun presence. I think the fact that he's a very recognizable actor who was like a big deal 20 years ago lends itself to that character seeming like he's important, right?
Yeah, I think it had gotten to the point where like I kind of wasn't really familiar with his career. Like I kind of only became aware of him in hindsight, so I knew him from the Wes Anderson stuff.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this is a big movie star on TV.
Yeah.
But I hadn't seen the kind of drop off that led him to the point of being a guest actor on TV.
No, it's good that there's like, he's kind of like a spare best actor winner that just kind of hangs around that you can pull in when you need someone. Like, there's no other Oscar winner you're going to be able to cast in a one episode role in Succession this easily.
Yeah.
Who can play like a techie guy. So it's kind of handy to have one lying around who can bring a bit of gravitas, but is also like available and cheap.
Yeah, like, and the older you get and the longer you keep going through this, the more inconsequential dead 5-year periods become.
Yeah, exactly.
Because proportionally as part of your career, they're not. Like, if you make one good film every 5 years, you can kind of keep your star status ticking over.
Because
it becomes easier as you get older.
Because he was so young when he won his Oscar. He's only 50 now.
Yeah.
There are great actors who have only become stars in their 50s.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't think Adrien Brody is you know...
And he looks good.
He looks good.
Yeah.
It's not impossible for him to develop an entire second wind now of his career. I think the issue is that he seems like maybe not a super chill guy. Just in terms of his marriage, his relationship with Harvey Weinstein's ex-wife, his kissing Halle Berry without her consent when he wins his Oscar in a very uncomfortable moment, his general kind of demeanor, I think, is a little bit off-putting.
His
but, you know,
Jamaican guy performance.
His Jamaican guy performance on SNL, like, he's kind of just waiting to get completely shut out.
I think
and
so.
I feel like the fact that he hasn't been working a whole lot has kept him safe from cancellation. But now The Brutalist is about to hit, and he maybe is going to win another Oscar. He's certainly going to get another nomination, where he's playing a character called Laszlo Toth in Brady Corbett's new film. It's this extremely well-reviewed 3.5-hour historical drama about a Hungarian architect surviving the Holocaust.
This is the film TikToks make fun of when you ask a film student what their favorite film is.
You know, I just want to watch Deadpool, and he wants to watch a 3.5-hour movie about a Hungarian architect played by Adrien Brody. It's coming out at some point. It's coming out in December in the US. It's incredibly long. Adrien Brody is the lead. Again, this is a real case of Adrien Brody is affordable if you're making a movie like this for cheap. You know, you could have gotten Adrien Brody in. You could have gotten him in Horizon. You could have put him in Megalopolis if you wanted to. I have to wonder, would he have been in Oppenheimer in another world? Like,
yeah, he seems like somebody who could very much be in the Nolan rotation.
Yeah, like he would kind of rule as Oppenheimer in the sense that he is the right age.
Yeah,
he's Jewish.
Yeah,
and he looks like someone who existed in the mid 20th century. So
he would have been perfect.
He's perfect. Like, I mean, he would actually be a more conceivable Oppenheimer in terms of his background than Irishman Murphy, but of course we're happy for Cillian Murphy in that role. But he was up in the kind of mix for the Joker in The Dark Knight, as we discussed on our Dark Knight episode.
Yeah, checks out.
And I think there's one other interesting one. Oh yeah, he was also in talks to play Spock in Star Trek 09 before they cast Zachary Quinto. I don't think that works. He's like, I don't think he'd be able to play, like, you know, autistic coded alien genius man. Like, he's too relaxed for that.
Yeah.
Spock is like uptight.
Yeah.
Brody is like, you know, a guy who dresses up as a Jamaican guy on SNL. But yeah, excited for The Brutalist. Always glad to see Adrien Brody, and he's good in this movie.
No, and there's a very fair chance he'll win an Oscar for Best Actor in this, and then disappear for 5 years.
Yeah,
and
exactly. There is
$15 million horror films. Like,
there's a conceivable outcome where Adrien Brody
doesn't boost his career at all.
Well, yes, but also where Adrien Brody and Nicole Kidman are this year's Best Actor and Best Actress winners, an exact rerun of the 2002 Oscars, which would be very funny.
That'd be hilarious.
Jason Schwartzman, one of Wes Anderson's guys, obviously, most recently the lead of Asteroid City. I think a perpetual supporting actor, and that's fine. You don't have to be a movie star. I think he has maybe grander ambitions because of being a Coppola, and he looks around and he sees his cousin Nicolas Cage and he goes, I'm a handsome guy. People like me. I'm in some of the most iconic films the last 30 years, all directed by the same guy. Why can't I be a movie star? And it's like, Jason Schwartzman, you are not a movie star, and that's okay. You know, he's been the lead in some films. That doesn't entitle him to be a movie star. But he's had a good career. He has had a real upswing in the last like 4 or 5 years. I mean, if you look at his mid 2010s, it's very sparse with good stuff. He was in this show on HBO called Bored to Death with Ted Danson and Zach Galifianakis that my parents really liked, that I found it pretty like mid-level Curb Your Enthusiasm knockoff kind of thing. He makes like basically no good movies in the mid-2000s. He shows up in supporting roles in the Wes movies, but also in stuff like Saving Mr. Banks, Listen Up Philip. He's very good in the Alex Ross Perry movie. He's in Big Eyes in a small role. Shit like The Polka King. Like, that's not real movies. But in the last like 4 or 5 years, he's in Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse in a voice performance that people really liked. He was the lead in Asteroid City. And he was in The Hunger Games last year as the father of Stanley Tucci's character. He's really fun in that. He had this movie Between the Temples come out just now, which was well received, although I thought that it was not that great. And he was kind of annoying in it.
Again, for some reason in my head, Between the Temples is the Luke Wilson.
Oh, that's so funny. Okay, so you have a real conflation of these.
I do a little bit, yeah.
And then he's popped up in supporting roles in 2 films I've seen very recently. He's in Megalopolis for about 5 minutes, and he's in Queer for about 15 minutes, which we saw yesterday, in which he is basically styled to look like his uncle, Francis Ford Coppola. Yeah. And he is quite good in it.
He is.
In kind of a role that you'd imagine Michael Stuhlbarg could have played maybe if the movie was made like 7 years ago. He's just kind of gentle, bearded, heavy guy who kind of is. He's like He's
a little bit silly.
He's presented as a contrasting type of middle-aged gay man to Daniel Craig's character. Daniel Craig's character is very stylish. He's, very well
manicured,
kept. Yes.
Well kept.
And he's reading his books. He's trying to look very sophisticated. And Jason Schwartzman's character is
sloppy.
He's a beatnik, Allen Ginsberg-y guy who kind of puts his feet up on the table and he's smoking and he's kind of like a little bit overweight and he's like just kind of gossiping.
Yeah, like his whole gag is that he keeps getting things stolen by people he's sleeping with.
Yes. And he's
like, oh no, my typewriter got stolen.
And he's got obviously an affinity for younger men, similarly to Craig's character, but in a much more like
slapstick way.
Yeah, in a slapsticky way where he's just kind of like, oh, he's a little creepy little man, kind of like
the binoculars.
Yeah, and he's spreading gossip about all the young men who come into the bar.
Yeah.
In Megalopolis, he shows up for like 5 minutes as like Dustin, who is he? Is he John Voight or Dustin Hoffman's like press secretary? And he just kind of walks behind. Oh, he's the mayor. Sorry, Giancarlo Esposito. He's his like press secretary, and he just kind of walks behind him in parades and stuff, whispering to him. It's kind of like the same as the Hunger Games performance, but in a much worse movie. So, he's got the potential to do some interesting stuff, but I don't know if he's going to. He is in his lane, and that's fine. But he's in more good movies than he was before. So that is Jason Schwartzman. That's what I gotta say about him.
Yeah, it's hard to be a leading man when very conceivably one of your biggest attributes is you can play a guy who goes, "Hey, don't hit me, I'm just a little guy."
Yeah, exactly. And like, yeah, I don't know. He's good at playing those guys. So the Darjeeling Limited was released in what is this?
September 29.
September 2007. So I just celebrated my 10th birthday.
I assume you're not looking at the list there. That's
no, I'm not at all. This movie made $35 million on a budget of $17 million.
Mm-hmm. No, I've had a brief look at the list here, and it is not looking good.
Oh dear.
No.
Oh, we're not going to know a lot of these.
Well, we are, but I just don't think they're very.
They're not fun to talk about.
The first up is a film. I'm going to read the tagline. I think that's a fun way to start these off. Half his size, twice the trouble. And she's moving in.
Oh, half his size, twice the trouble. So it's a woman?
Sorry, I would argue that this woman is like a quarter of his size.
Is it a child?
It's a child.
Is it a famous child? Is the child a famous child?
The child grew up to be a known person.
A known person?
Interesting. I'd know this name. I think they featured in kind of television more so.
Right.
This... Like, I don't know if this person is.
So it's not like an Olsen twins thing.
No,
it's not.
No, I'd say she was okay. You're close. It's more in that territory.
More in it's not Miley Cyrus. Is it a Disney Channel person?
Potentially.
Half his size. Is this movie The Game Plan?
It is a Game Plan.
Who's the child in The Game Plan?
Madison Pettis.
I have no idea who that is.
In Voice and Horton Hears a Who. He's in He's All That. 7 pounds.
She's not famous. I don't think she's a famous child.
I know the name. Beverly Hills Chihuahua 2 and 3.
Yeah, but those are all within like the 2 years of this coming out.
I guess so.
Yeah. Okay. I've never seen The Game Plan. Funny though, because on our last episode we talked about Tooth Fairy. Another rock crappy family comedy. Game Plan looks so boring. Okay.
Andy Fickman directed.
Oh wow, one of our greatest. All right.
Real life Peter Griffin.
Yeah. Carry on. Folks, Google the game plan director and you'll see what we mean.
Oh, that is real life Peter Griffin.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Next, that made not very much money, I don't think.
Sorry, this. I sent you the opening day instead of the opening weekend.
Oh, okay.
So don't worry about the numbers. They're
Sure,
1 day's
sure.
worth of money. Okay.
I'm not sure this film exists.
What just tell me what it is.
This is a Universal film that
Okay.
I'm not seeing a...
What's it called?
Okay, I got it. Sorry.
All right, okay.
I got it. How do you stop an enemy who isn't afraid to die?
Oh, have I seen it?
Definitely not.
How do you stop an enemy that isn't
This
afraid
is
to
like
die?
the last thing you'd ever want to
It's
watch.
a horror.
No.
Oh. It's the last thing I'd
It's
ever
a war
wanna-
thing.
It's a war thing. I have no idea what this is.
It's got Jamie Foxx, Jennifer Garner,
Chris
Chris
The
Cooper.
Kingdom.
The Kingdom.
I'd watch it because of Chris Cooper, but I'm not going to watch
Sure.
it.
Yeah. Just
Who directed that? Edswick?
no.
James Mangold?
No.
McGee?
No.
Oh, it's someone I know though.
Yeah.
Oh,
Someone that
Jane-
would
Lee Hancock? John Lee Hancock? No.
No. It's not someone who. It's someone who you're like, okay, but like not someone you get excited for.
Peter
when you-
Berg.
Peter Berg.
Yeah, my man.
Your man.
I am not like Peter Berg is like Sean Levy in the sense that I am a hater completist. I'm probably going to end up watching every Peter Berg movie just so I can complain, you know?
Like he hits every now and again. He'll hit a nice 4-star film.
Name me 2 4-star Peter Berg movies.
The fucking
Give you so much money. Okay.
Deepwater Horizon.
That's not a 4-star movie. That's a 3.5.
Sorry, fine.
There is one Peter Berg 4-star movie. Will I tell you what it is? Because you've forgotten he made it.
Yeah, go on.
Hancock. Right.
Hancock is Peter Berg.
That's
Yeah,
great.
okay.
Yeah, continue.
Sure.
And The Leftovers pilot.
All right, next one is Resident Evil Extinction. I'm not going to make you guess that.
They're not real movies. Okay. That's just video games they release in the cinema.
Like, is the opening day representative of the weekend?
Yeah, more or less.
All right.
Similar. Like, I don't think it's going to make much of a difference to the
Sure,
order
it
of
might
the films.
skew a little bit. But
Yeah, a little bit.
next up, we have a romantic comedy of sorts. A Mark Helfrich film.
No.
Nothing.
No.
Oh, it's got a very, very good leading man that we all like. I'm lying.
Aaron Eckhart?
No, not at all. Disregard that comment.
Ryan Philippe?
Dane Cook.
Oh, Jesus. Is this called, like, She's That Bitch or something?
Good luck, Chuck.
Yeah, close enough. All right.
She's that bitch.
What do you think a Dane Cook movie's going to be called? I'm surprised it's not called, like, My Penis and Me or something.
Okay, next up. What was the Christian Bale film of the year?
Christian Bale in 2007. Is it a 310 to Yuma?
It is 310 to Yuma.
Oh, that's a James Mangold.
James Mangold.
There you go.
Yeah.
I knew he had some boring shit out around this time. Boring.
There's a lot of inconsequential stuff
I'm
here.
sure. September did not used to be a good time for movies. And now we have masterpieces like Beetlejuice, thank God.
Oh, we got an Irish director on this one.
Oh, yeah?
Yep.
John Moore?
Nope.
Jim Sheridan?
Nope.
Neil Jordan?
Yep.
Brecky Flutie? No. No, the next one. Ondine?
Nope.
Oh. In between Brecky Flutie and Ondine, there was another Neil Jordan movie.
American actors.
Julianne Moore in it?
Close. Similar type.
Blanchett?
No.
Similar type to Julianne Moore. Annette Bening?
No. Okay, I'm not
Who's
sure
a
if this...
similar type.
Similar age range, I guess.
don't
Maybe
know.
a touch younger. Jodie Foster.
Oh, the Brave one.
Brave one.
That's a weird movie for Neil Jordan to make. Right after... That's like a Flight Plan type film.
Yeah.
Like right after Breakfast on Pluto, his masterpiece, he went and made like a random Jodie Foster
Gets assaulted
action.
and tries to...
Yeah, it's like I guess sexual assault revenge thing, you know, female empowerment, but like not Neil Jordan coded really. Anyway.
No. Terrence Howard is second lead in that.
Well, I'll just never be watching that.
Yep.
Neil Jordan.
Okay, I'm just going to start naming the rest
so
of the
polite to
films
me,
because
yeah.
like I don't know any of them.
Yeah, give me a
We got Mr. Woodcock.
Oh, Billy Bob Thornton's like a coach of sports. Yeah.
Eastern Promises.
Yeah, it's a Viggo Mortensen Cronenberg movie. Yeah.
Sydney White.
No.
The Bourne Ultimatum.
Boring.
That brings us to 10.
Yeah, more like the.
Then we've got
Ultimate.
like Across the Universe, Transformers, Into the Wild, Stardust, Simpsons movie,
Yeah,
Darjeeling Limited.
all the good
there.
shit from the summer is all. Oh, so Simpsons movie's been out for 2 months and it's still ahead of Darjeeling Limited. I mean, Darjeeling Limited
on this day.
Yeah, on limited release, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yes, it didn't have a wide release until later. I don't think.
Screens.
It opened on the limited release and then it went wide.
It said 2 theaters.
26th of October. Oh, it probably was 2 theaters then.
73,000.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Soundtrack features music by The Kinks, The Rolling Stones, Peter Sarstedt. There's some Les Champs-Élysées by Joe Dassin. You know, none of this is my shtick, my stuff, really. Anyway.
We're going to bother with a credits game at this point?
No, we're not going to bother. This movie won Best Comedy at the AARP Movies for Grown-Ups Awards 2008. It was nominated against the following films: Juno, Dan in Real Life, Death at a Funeral, and Wild Hogs.
That's what grown-ups find funny.
Absolutely.
Juno and the Darjeeling Limited.
Yeah. And Wild Hogs. And Dan in Real Life, his head is on a stack of pancakes. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Boy Party. We've run wildly over, considering this is a movie we had nothing to say about.
But we did spend most of our time talking about trains.
Planes, and, you know, we watched The Pianist and Queer so that we would have something to say about Brody and Schwartzman, and we succeeded. Yep. So you can thank us for all of our research.
Go see Queer in 6 months.
Go see Queer in 6 months. It is slightly better than this.
Yeah.
I would say slightly better.
Quite similar.
Weirdly yes.
Similar.
Annoying man in a foreign land. BoyPartyPod.com is our website. BoyPartyPod is our handle on Twitter and Instagram. We'll be back next week with another episode. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you, Shane. I'm so tired. Goodbye.